right, so let's take a look at the front pages. We have joining us in our Lagos studio, as always, Mr. Dayo Akintobi, Public Affairs Analyst. Mr. Akintobi, good morning.
Very good morning to you. Good morning to Nigeria.
Good morning to Nigeria. Nigerians, rather. Was it a restful weekend for you, by the way?
Yes, indeed it was. We didn't have any choice. The rain kept us indoors. For a moment, it actually delayed the boat race.
Right.
They had to call it off, delay its start,
yeah,
because the rain was so heavy. So everybody stayed indoors, had a nice cool evening, cool day. Nice.
If you don't want to rest, the rain will make you rest. So on behalf of all Lagosians, I want to say thank you to the rain. But let's take a lock at the big stories. I want to imagine that the E1 Lagos GP will make its way to the front page. But this Nigeria sort of paints the other side of rain, the bad side, and it's about flood. Tension rises as Kainji, Jeba, Shiroro set for discharge. Experts slam states for poor preparedness. Lagos and Anambra assured residents. So we're getting to the peak period. Once October comes, you know that October, early November is usually a very tricky time. I don't know if to ask what are your projections or what are your concerns or what are your worries about this year's peak flood season?
Well, it's starting to sound like a broken record because we talk about this year after year after year, and government issues early warnings and says, those of you in low-lying areas, evacuate, move to higher areas, clear your drainage. You see government put out agencies going out to clear drainage channels. You can see this movement in Lagos now to demolish a lot of buildings that are built on drainage channels and are causing, inhibiting free flow of water into the estuaries. And essentially, government seems to be trying to do its best, and you know that it's a natural phenomenon that each year the rain is going to come. It's a given, as sure as night follows day and day follows night. You know the rain is coming, and when it does, the water levels rise in the dams, and to stop the dams from overflowing and from bursting, they need to release water. And you know what happens? Even when Cameroon releases water from Lagdo Dam every year, you see what happens even when it's not raining here. So we have enough advance warning of Mother Nature and her depredations and what she's all about. So that gives ample opportunity both to government and to individuals. I think we rely too much on government for everything. I think we have some individual responsibility to do some things ourselves. And we have a number of bad habits that contribute to flooding, apart from just the topography. Our waste management is poor. I said here the other day, I was driving behind a vehicle and somebody tosses a piece of plastic out of the window on the road to create litter. That plastic bottle will roll and roll and roll and end up in a gutter somewhere, and that will accumulate and will clog that drainage channel. So we need to look inwards first. How are we doing our own individual environmental sanitation? What are our practices in terms of upkeeping environmental sanctity? Are we keeping our gutters clear? Are we disposing our waste properly? Are we building our houses a bit higher? Like where I live, you have to climb 3 steps to get inside the residence. So the street floods naturally, but the water won't come into your premises. And then as the rain recedes, it'll flow away. Now, I think Lagos State, I'm not sure of other states because I live in Lagos. Lagos State, I see its efforts that they actually put these crews out who come and desilt the gutters at the onset of the rainy season. But where the fault line comes is after they've taken the debris out of the gutter and put it on the side of the road, those who should come and clear it don't come. Then it rains and the rain pushes it all back in. So we're back to square one. So I think government can do a little bit more, but we as well as individuals have a role to play in this as well, because Mother Nature will always follow its course, and it has given us a predictable pattern. You already talked here that October is here, November is the peak. We already know what to expect. So it's not coming as a surprise. So we can be proactive. We don't have to be reactive when the floods have come and our homes have been sacked and our streets, we need canoes to navigate our streets, is when we now start running helter-skelter. We can take defensive measures prior and not afterwards.
Oh, there you go. So we have ample opportunity to at least avert this or ensure that we're not impacted as negatively. Bukola. Okay, I'll take another one. Just take two. I think it's a lucky Monday for me. So let me take another daily just before we head over to Bukola. Right. And the next paper we'll take is a Vanguard newspaper. Vanguard newspaper speaks to something very interesting, and it's about lithium. $92 billion lithium rush leaves Nigerian investors behind. Why domestic investors are not yet there, that's from Muda Yusuf. Foreign investors should not own mines 100%. That's according to miners. You see Nasarawa leading in lithium mining friendly policies, the governor's essay, and federal government says no special policy on lithium. So clearly there's a global market for this for obvious reasons, right? We all have it in our hands.
Absolutely.
Right? But it looks like investors are being left behind. But there's always mixed messaging about the mining industry in Nigeria. So we hear that, and we know, we're certain that we're blessed in that sense. One of the things we tout, Nigeria is blessed, with all of these deposits. But then it looks like it's out of our control in some areas. What you hear is foreigners taking advantage of it, and then the locals are pushed behind, and then you hear that it's also fueling insecurity. So it's almost like this blessing has now become a curse, while others are smiling to the bank on our behalf.
Well, no, it hasn't become a curse. It just has become an unexploited benefit or a misdirected benefit, because the country at large and the communities where these resources lie are the ones who benefit least from it. I don't think what's happening in mining is any different from what happened with oil and gas crude oil for many, many years. The thing is, we've not paid a lot of attention, corporate attention, and by corporate I mean government, has not paid a lot of attention to the fact that there are mineral resources buried underground that have a lot of value when they're refined or when they're sold to the market, that to convert them to usable products. Now, the current Minister for Mines, Dele Alake, has done a lot of work to revamp the entire sector, the ecosystem of the mining industry, the mineral resources sector. And he has tried to streamline the way these resources are brought out of the ground, codify the ownership. Because what's been happening basically is the foreigners have been coming, do a pact with the villagers who really don't know the value. I mean, look at lithium, for example. As you said, our telephones, our computers, our laptops, any gadget, just about any device that uses a battery is fully dependent on lithium. And this is something we have in abundance, but we've not exploited. And foreigners have seen that, just like they did with our oil industry. But because we quickly had a eureka moment with oil, we were able to latch on and make certain joint venture agreements with the IOCs that made sure that something was coming back to us, not just the people in Niger Delta making these agreements with the company and they deriving the benefit. But in terms of mineral resources, we've not gotten to that level yet. People have looked the other way for a long time. Government has looked the other way, probably because mining is a lot more complicated. With regards to oil, for example, for a long time technology has existed that minimizes human intervention. Human beings don't go down several hundred meters into the ground to dig up the oil. They have rigs and machines that do this, that remove the human element. But in terms of other natural resources, you still have to mine the old-fashioned way. You still have to basically dig. And you've seen pictures in Zamfara, for example, where you see people scooping out mud and separating it and trying to find gold and things like that. So there needs to be stronger government regulation and policy in terms of who can mine mineral resources. Investors, as you said, are more or less not getting the ample opportunity to participate in this gold mine, because of course it is a gold mine, because it's a raw material that has a lot of value, that has more value when it is refined, just like oil. And the refiners, those who are able to use it to create an end product out of it, are usually overseas and they're foreigners. Indeed. So we see a lot of foreigners. I've seen the Chinese, I've seen a lot of foreigners coming here with an interest in partnering on our mining, on mining our mineral resources, but they're not talking with government. They're talking with the villagers where the resources lie. Yeah. And I understand that a lot of the insecurity in the north, a lot of it is based on a hunger and a desire for illicit trade in our mineral resources.
And that's where you just look at that blessing and wonder, how much of a blessing is a blessing when you look at the negative aspects? I was going to ask you if you caught Big Brother Naija season 10, because it's also on the front page. Emisi wins BB Naija season 10, gets 150 million naira, although I hear that there are deductions and all of that, and it may come down to lower than that. But did you catch any episode of it?
Yes, I have a young teenage protege who was totally stuck on this thing through. So anytime I came in the house, it was on the TV. I couldn't escape.
It was inevitable.
It was. I couldn't escape it. So yes, I caught it, and it was a grand ending, and the entire season was quite enchanting, and it left a lot of suspense, and there was a lot of interaction among the housemates, and it was a good one, and it ended well. Congratulations to the winner.
Congratulations to Missy. I hear that she was able to connect with the streets.
Yes.
In that sense, which is a very good strategy if you want to win. In fact, if you want to win anything at that in Nigeria, people need to know that you're connecting with them on that level.
Absolutely.
Not too much of, posh and packaging. Abuja, I took 2. It's all yours now.
Congratulations to Emisi. Congratulations to the women. It's always a good one when women emerge victorious in any field, even in Big Brother. But you might need a bigger strategy to win the heart of your landlord anywhere that you find yourself in, particularly if you're in Nigeria. And the Inquirer is drawing our attention to a housing challenge in the country this morning. Mr. Akitobi, take a look at this. Rising rents, housing shortfall, squeeze Abuja residents. And there's an interesting rider. Landlords prefer Yahoo boys. So it's as if the Abuja Inquirer is telling us this morning that landlords now seem to prefer the certainty of illegitimate proceeds for their rent to proceeds from honest toil and sweat from men of integrity. Mr. Akitobi.
Remuneration coming from honest toil in a challenged economy can be sporadic. So if you are a landlord, especially an investor, probably someone who got a loan to build his property, you'd rather have a guaranteed steady flow of income, and the illicit money, the illegal money seems to guarantee that a lot more. However, I'll put a rider on that and say that a Yahoo boy can't be relied upon to meet his obligations, because in spite of the fact that he may have a bit of money to throw around, the fact that he's morally bankrupt enough to be able to generate income from illegality means that he's not dependable. So I think any landlord who would rely on the fact that a Yahoo boy is more reliable than somebody who is toiling for his daily bread in an honest fashion, I think such landlord is living in a fool's paradise, because that Yahoo boy eventually will default on his rental payments. He may have made a good payment up front just to acquire the property or to acquire tenancy in the space, but once his activities continue over time, he can't be relied upon. Secondly, there's a law enforcement angle to where if illegal activities are being carried out in your premises, you could be held liable to some extent. When the police come and raid the place and confiscate all that they find there, they could take the landlord to task. There's something called KYC that the banks are doing, which is called Know Your Customer. As a landlord, it's incumbent upon you to also do the due diligence on anybody before you rent to them. What do you do? Where do you work? Who are your references? Where did you live last? And what kind of a record did you leave there? These are the things that landlords should do to begin to weed out the undesirables in our midst. I mean, I don't care how much a Yahoo boy has to pay me. I wouldn't want to rent any of my property to anybody who is doing something illegal that could now turn around and jeopardize the sanctity of my own residence. Apart from neighbors, apart from co-tenants, there is the aspect that police could actually, I think, I'm not sure, I'm not a lawyer, but they could probably even go to court and get some sort of order to confiscate your property if they can prove that you knew that unlawful activity was going on there, and you turned a blind eye to it. So I think there's a housing crisis without a doubt, and not just in Abuja, in Lagos as well. Rents are sky high. There's not as many affordable properties to go around, which is why I would like to see government intervention in more low-cost and medium-cost housing. I think in as much as a lot of governments have a lot more money in their hands now from savings from subsidy, I think there needs to be more of a concerted effort to provide low-cost and medium-cost housing for the masses, the working class masses. This would take the pressure off the skyrocketing rates of rental. Agents also need to be called to order, because the commissions that agents charge for you to move into a place is almost as much as the rent itself, which puts additional pressure on renters. And so I don't think it's a win-win situation for a landlord to think that just simply because a Yahoo boy or even a drug dealer or anybody who is into any kind of illegality, simply because they have a rash of cash, means that they would make a better tenant. I think if you're immoral in one aspect of life, you will be immoral all the way across.
Well, you are right on the money there. You know, the story is a sad reality of our times. And, you know, it's also, what you've said is also reminiscent of, I think, Benue State, where you stand the chance of losing a structure, a building, if it's found to be hosting kidnappers, or even, in fact, victims of kidnapping. But let's go to a New Telegraph, you know, to draw insight from yet another story. It formed some of our talking point at the beginning. Wike leads reconciliation meeting for Fubara, Amaewhule, others. And there's just one rider there. Fate of governor's chief of staff uncertain. I wonder if this casts any shadow of doubt, however minute, on the peace process in Rivers State. I recall that the former chief of staff, I don't know if he's the one that will resume that office, Edison Ehie, had sued the head of service for libel, I think just before the suspension. But Mr. Akitobi, what are your thoughts on this against the backdrop of happenings before Fubara's suspension?
Well, there's mixed messages here, because in addition to the fate of the chief of staff being uncertain, we're also hearing that Fubara's loyalists shunned the meeting. That is a bit worrisome. In spite of what Kayode said in the beginning at the opening of the program, that it is a good sign, and I agree with that, that finally for the first time in Rivers we are seeing a state of detente, where warring factions are coming to sit down and have a peace parley about joining hands and collaborating to move the state forward. And for the first time in about 2 years, we are seeing everything devoid of rancor, and they are hugging and they are harmoniously talking about collaboration. But there's still some shadows that are uncertain. The reinstated governor sacked his cabinet this past week, sacked all the commissioners, and is set, I guess, to renominate new ones and send for confirmation. That might be part of the peace agreement. Might have been that he would get rid of his commissioners, and the new ones probably would come from putting their heads together and joint agreement between the various parties. But I don't think the contention is fully resolved yet. I think there are some ominous signs if we're reading the tea leaves. And I think the issue that you brought up about the chief of staff is one, the fact that Fubara's loyalists, because at the end of the day, he's not going to govern on his own. He still needs a kitchen cabinet. He still needs the people who he listens to, the people whose advice he trusts. And if they are shunning a peace meeting, it probably means that all is not yet well in Peoria, and that they are either staging this to make it look like there's peace, or they have a genuine desire. Fubara has a genuine desire for peace and is ready to move forward even without his lieutenants, and is ready to be in the den of vipers on his own, and come what may, he will deal with the consequences.
Okay, so we'll see how that plays out. And that's the thing with politics sometimes. You never know what to expect until
Absolutely.
you see it.
Yes.
But I'm sure a lot of Rivers people are saying, can we just have peace?
Absolutely.
For the next 1.5 years plus till this administration is over. At least that's too much to ask for.
No, it shouldn't be.
But, Mr. Akintobi, let's take a look at Leadership newspaper this Monday morning and see how the paper reports the big stories. Cooking gas is what I choose to pay attention to. Cooking gas prices to go through the roof nationwide. It's at page 36. I'm wondering, I think it has gone through the roof already.
Yeah, it has.
Where else is it going for the moon now?
Stratosphere.
Stratosphere. Come on, 15,000 for cooking gas, and what are you even cooking at the end of the day? So first, that's one of the big stories on the front page. But there's this other issue about alleged certificate forgery. It's something that has been under the radar for a while with the Minister of Science.
Yes.
And pressure is mounting on Science Minister Naji to resign. Civil society groups, lawyers, others say he must leave. How court turned down minister's request to stop release of academic records. So this is a big deal by every measure. The Minister of Science and Technology, Uche Naji, embroiled in degree certificate issues, and he had gone to court to bar the school, that's University of Nigeria in Nsukka, from releasing the details. But we understand the court rejected it, and there have been some sort of evidence to point or to confirm that maybe this wasn't issued at the end of the day. Big scandal for this government, particularly for this minister.
My consternation is the fact that this man was screened, not just by the National Assembly, not just by the Senate, but any presidential nominee, especially for the position of minister. The DSS does massive screening. I know somebody who's gone through the process and was grilled, almost down to his DNA was checked. Any and every person he's ever spoken to was checked, down to every school he attended all the way from nursery. So it's a very thorough, rigorous process. So the question I ask is, how did this one slip through the cracks? Because definitely he was screened, screened and investigated by the security architecture, and he was now confirmed. He was screened and confirmed by the National Assembly. So if it all pans out, which it is looking, as a matter of fact, I saw one headline this morning that says he admitted he never graduated from UNN. Yes, but that's not to say he didn't graduate from somewhere else. But at least for this morning so far, he's saying he didn't complete his studies from UNN. So the question I ask is, how did he slip through the cracks to where this was not just exposed, but also brought to bear on the decision to confirm him as a minister? And as you've said, it's egg on the face of the administration, especially in light of the fact that there were issues surrounding the leader of the administration in terms of certificate issues as well during the campaign. Fortunately, that was put to rest before he was sworn in, and that was already sorted out. But for there to be another one within the administration so soon at the onset it's not good. First of all, for our public image, for our international image. It's also not good in terms of our regulatory process, our investigative process, our screening process, that such a thing could have happened.
You know, this had started since, I think, 2023, actually, July or thereabouts, and it's lasted up until this moment.
Because he was using legal dodges to inhibit the release of the information.
It's an important ministry, science and technology. You know, I was just going through, the news yesterday, and I saw the reports about Big Brother and all of that. And just right under it, I saw countries talking about artificial intelligence and all. I'm like, okay.
Absolutely.
I'll just leave it at that.
That's a pivotal ministry. Such a thing shouldn't be happening there at all.
Mr. Akintobi, we have to thank you so much for your time. The right thing must be done always. Not just for this generation, but for the coming generation and the world.
Absolutely.
Always a pleasure to have you, Mr. Akintobi. I must say you look good as always. Wish you a great day ahead.
You are most kind. Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria.
Thank you.